Sacred Space on West Limerick 102.
So welcome to our Come and See studio here in Arda, where we hope to bring you another episode of some good news that's happening around the church and the people who are working therein. So this morning, it's my delight and my privilege to welcome into the studio here Father Phonsie Cullinan. Good morning to you, Father.
Good morning, John. Good morning to all your listeners.
How are you this morning?
I'm very good. Thank God.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
You're welcome.
So the reason why I've asked Father to join us this morning, as I have on a number of occasions with a number of priests, is just to go through their story of priesthood and how the Lord called them and the work that they're doing now and the encouragement they're bringing us, and also maybe a reason why we should continue to pray for our priests. So, Father Phonsie, just before we start, maybe a little bit of your family background.
Mm-hmm.
Please, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I come from a family of 10 children.
Wow.
How about that?
Oh.
Mom and Dad are in heaven, Christy and Rita. And then there are 6 boys and 4 girls, and I am number 8 in the line. And started in Clare, and then the family moved into Limerick City, and Limerick has been very good to us, thank God. And I became a priest in 1994.
So just going back a small little bit, were you born in Clare, you said? Was that in the country or
Born in a place called Lahinch, down by the sea.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Absolutely.
And so your school was it in Lahinch or?
School actually with the good Salesian sisters.
Mm-hmm.
When in the, babies in first class and all that.
Lovely.
And then into JFK, John F. Kennedy School on the Ennis Road. And then went to the Crescent College Comprehensive out there in Valladolid with the Jesuits.
Okay.
And a good experience all around.
Perfect. So, a typical young fella now going to school, no doubt thinking about leaving cert and so on and so forth, and then maybe what will I do with my life after leaving cert? What was Father Phonsie thinking at that particular time?
Teaching. That was my goal, especially secondary teaching. But then after the leaving cert, my dad said, "We've no money to send you to college now, bucko. So what about Mary Immaculate?" So
you ended up inside that. Okay.
Saved up a few bob, got a summer job, and went to Mary Immaculate, and had 3 great years there. And I became a national teacher.
And how many years were you a teacher, a national teacher?
I was teaching in Ireland for 6 years, and then went off to Spain to teach English for 2 years. And that was a great experience.
How did that come about? You ended up in Spain?
Well, I had a good friend in school, Maurice Wolf, who is now in Germany. And Maurice invited me to teach English on a summer course in Spain. So, of course, I was teaching at the time in Ireland, and to get 2 months paid holiday in sunny Spain.
Yeah, okay.
How could you pass up that one?
You couldn't refuse that.
So off I went, and there I got to know a group called Opus Dei, and they were, several members of Opus Dei were running this summer course. So I went out there with 2 of my brothers. Sure, we had a great time. And we were invited back the following year and the year after. But there in Spain, I saw films of DVDs of St. Josemaria Escriva. I had no Spanish, or very little. I was picking up a few words, but something did impress me about him and about the guys there. And anyway, to make a long story short, came back to Ireland, was teaching away. Then there was a rumour going around in the middle 80s that the INTO was going to close down on career breaks. So I was invited by one of the teachers that I met in Spain, would I go and teach English in their school as a full-time teacher? So I discussed this with my old principal in Castleconnell, Paddy Rowan, Lord to mercy him, he died there last year. And Paddy said, if I got the opportunity again, he said, I'd tear off.
Off you go.
So off I went. And it was there, when I was outside of the Irish thing, when you take a person out of their habitat and you put them somewhere else, they have to start thinking for themselves more, stand on their own 2 feet.
Yeah.
When I was in Limerick, I had a great time. I was singing. I was in the Sicilians Musical Society and doing a bit of acting. We had the teaching, and there was soccer, and there was all sorts of things, a bit of golfing.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was out of all that comfort zone, and I was over there in Spain, and I began to take my spiritual life more seriously. I began to pray more. This was with the help of a lot of guys there in Opus Dei as well. There was a club, and they used to tear off on Saturdays. We'd go off climbing mountains, and as we'd go in the car, one of the guys would take out a little bit of scripture, read a line, we'd pray, read another line, silence, And this thing was I really thought was beautiful. What a beautiful way to pray. Just get a little thought and then silence.
Father, would this have been new to you now? I mean, experience this?
Yes.
Faith being shared? Okay.
Well, yes, it was. Now, I have to say that, of course, 90%, and St. Josemaria Escriva, who founded Opus Dei, would say it, 90% of a person's vocation comes from their parents.
Just about to ask that, yeah.
Absolutely. But at the same time, this experience of mental prayer, contemplation, contemplative prayer, reflective, it's not really the kind of thing I was very used to. And I liked it. And of course, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, you can do it, You just need that bit of silence, put yourself in the presence of God, get some book, get something good, even a picture, a picture of Sacred Heart or Our Lady, whatever, and start listening and start speaking with the Lord, and it will happen. And this began to grow inside me, and all this this spiritual life got stronger. There was a Franciscan church around the corner from where I lived in Spain. I was in the city of Valladolid, which an ancient capital of Spain. It was from there that Columbus got his permission to set sail from the king and the queen, Isabel and Ferdinand, and Ferdinand II. So anyway, in that city, I learnt a lot. And it was there, in fact, on our little retreat. There's a story about that, but maybe it's too long to tell, I don't know.
No, walk away.
There was a friend of mine there he was working in the school. He had an apartment. There were several lodgers in it. Of course, in Spain, most people live in the high-rise things.
Okay, yeah, okay.
They don't have the 3-bedroom semi-detached like we do in Ireland.
No.
That's out in the outskirts of a city they would, but mostly it's pisos, as they call them. It's apartments. So I was living in the apartment of Chus, was his name. Jesus, which is actually Jesus. Loads of Spanish kids are called Jesus. Very strange for us. And they give them all nicknames, you see. And anyway, Chus had me there, and I did a retreat, one in 1988 there, and at the start of 88, and towards the end of 88, Chus tells me, there's another little weekend retreat on, wouldn't you go? And I said, nah, I'm going playing golf.
Okay.
So he convinced me anyway. He badgered me into it. But we were great friends now. He could do it, you see. So I went on that retreat, and it was there that I decided, believe it or not, I can't explain this. If anybody listening in can explain it, you can tell me. It was during that retreat that I crystallized the idea, and I actually said it to the priest on the course, I want to become a priest.
That's the first time that ever came into your mind, Father, is it?
It's the first time that I actually put it into one sentence.
Okay.
But when I went to Maynooth then the following year, we were asked by 3 different priests who were giving us what they call the spiritual month, the September course for the newcomers. That was 1989. And 3 priests, 3 individual men, they asked us individually to write the story of our vocation So we take out a sheet of paper and a pen, and we begin to write. And the third time that I wrote that, it became quite clear that in actual fact, this was God's plan all the way. You know? All those spiritual training when I was young, kneeling down, saying the rosary at home. And then school, various things happened there. They were good, thank God. Then off to Spain. I always thought all the decisions were mine along the way. Well, they were. But by the same token, God was writing his own way with crooked lines, but he was writing straight. And they were all pointing, in fact, to priesthood.
And tell me, Father, when you get that idea, obviously, I mean, you shared it with your parents and maybe some of your friends. How did they react?
Well, the parents took it very well, the dad especially. So did the mum. My mum said, if you're going to become a priest, become a right one.
Okay.
The dad was chuffed. He was a man of few words, really. But, and the friends took it very well. But there were different days back in, the late 80s.
The late 80s.
But,
and your brothers and sisters the same?
Yeah, they took it very well, absolutely. They most certainly did. And ever since then, I should say, by the way, that at the start of 89, January, I had an appointment with Bishop Jeremiah Newman, and he met me for 20 minutes. The first 15 minutes, maybe, or the first 10, he spent doing the devil's advocate. Why do you want to become a priest? Yeah, sure. Look, why wouldn't you want to be married? And he was only testing me out.
Yeah.
And at the end of that meeting, he said he had to go. He said, kneel down there and I'll give you a blessing. I have to say, I can still visualize this in my mind. Yes. From that moment, I never had a doubt about priesthood.
Praise the Lord.
Absolutely. So you see the Lord working in all different ways, in all different people. I can remember kind neighbours, people of good, solid faith. I can remember some great priests. I can remember so many ways in which the Lord touches our lives, touched my life.
And so you went to seminary.
Went to Maynooth.
How did you find that?
It was a great experience. I was 28 when I went to Maynooth. Of course, I was lobbed in with a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds, and sure, it was like a second wind.
Of course. Yeah.
Great fun, games. We had a ball. There were 55 guys in our year.
Wow.
5 of them came from Belfast. They went back to Belfast after the September. They went up to seminary up there, you see. And then we had 50 guys. Sure, we got along very well, very well. Good bunch of guys. About 25, roughly, of that class, or 23 or something, went on for priesthood. And that's par for the course. Absolutely. There's loads of guys come and try it. It's not for them. Off they go. We had one guy left after a week, which was a bit sudden, I thought. But little by little, the guys dropped out. We were very surprised.
Were you going on as a diocesan student, or were you thinking about an order priest?
I was diocesan.
Did you ever think about any order? Missionary order type of thing?
I thought about the Jesuits, all right. That was years ago. But I never really considered it was diocesan. Working class priest, that's what I like to say.
Okay.
Working class priest.
That's good.
So that was always it, really.
And so you were there for how long, Father, in seminary? I
was there for 6 years in total, 5 years up to ordination, and then I did an extra year of study.
And during that time, I mean, I assume for everybody that's a time of discernment, but you were maybe getting even more convinced all the time. Yeah, this is the.
Yeah. I really have to say, I never had a doubt, really. Maybe questions, but not doubts. There's a difference between having questions and doubts.
Yeah,
It was, I think, John Henry Newman who said, 1,000 questions do not make a doubt.
Yeah.
Or 1,000 difficulties do not make a doubt. That's what he said.
So after 6 years, time for ordination?
Well, ordination was after 5, that's
After
right,
5
in
years, excuse me,
94. And went back then for finishing off an STL, which is kind of like a master's.
But just coming back now to the ordination, can you remember the ordination day?
Oh, yes, indeed. 12th of June, 94, St. John's Cathedral. Bishop Newman, Jeremiah. I was the last to be ordained by Bishop Jeremiah. God bless him, a great man, and Lord have mercy on him. He's buried now in the cathedral. That was 94.
A proud day for the parents and
Absolutely.
family there.
Big shindig and all the rest of it. It was marvellous.
And then it was time you had to go and do some work, or in your case, a little bit more study, was it?
Came back, yes. Went back to Maynooth for another year. Then 95, did a few weeks in... I was helping out in St. John's, or was that 94? That was 94. 95, then I was appointed in St. Munchin's parish, St. Munchin, St. Lelia's in the city. I was there for just 1 year. I was looking forward to 10 more, but I was moved off to become chaplain of the regional hospital, which has changed name twice since, but I'll just call it the regional anyway, as everybody else does.
That must have been some experience there, Father.
It was marvellous. That was marvellous. I was just there for 5 years, but that was a learning curve. We learned so much from the sick.
Yeah.
It is a place, vocation, where you touch life and you touch what is really essential, you know. I remember many's the time talking to sick people, and they would say, look, you can keep the lottery and lotto and all that.
Yeah.
I just want to get well. And there was also a camaraderie amongst the sick, and there was a levelling of, social distinctions. It didn't matter if you were if you were a millionaire or whatever, and if you were, if you had a PhD or just a pass intercert, it didn't make any difference.
You were sick.
You were sick, and we were all together, and we were all kind of rooting for each other. It was a privileged time to be a priest and all of that, and struggling, of course, then with the whole notion of suffering and where does Christ come into that. But in the chapel in the regional hospital, there's a big crucifix, pretty much life-size, and many's the time I'd go in and just look up at it and say nothing. There was no need of words, and the answer is up there somewhere.
Yeah.
And that was it was a time of learning too. It was a time, I remember oftentimes sitting down with after somebody had died, the priest would be called, before they died, and I might be there on my own because it might happen in the middle of the night. The nurses would do their stuff, of course, and the medical staff, and they were great, absolutely. But when they were finished and the corpse was there on his or her own, sometimes I'd be waiting for the family to come in. They might be out in the countryside or wherever. And I'd sit down and I'd ask myself this question. That person was breathing an hour ago and now they're no longer. What is the difference between that corpse and the living person? And of course, it's the spirit.
It's the spirit, yeah.
It's the spirit. The spirit is no longer there, but it's still alive. The spirit, even though the body was dead.
That's a wonderful truth.
Sure.
To have the gift, maybe, of faith, to
Absolutely.
realise that.
Absolutely.
That our soul continues and our spiritual life continues.
I mean, even the language that we use, to die, there's a word, to expire.
Yes.
Ex, out. Spire, spiritus. The spirit is gone out. And to inspire is the opposite. The spirit goes in. But to expire. And of course, if we really love someone, how could we believe that their spirit is gone?
Yeah.
I find that incredible.
And some of the witnesses of faith you must have experienced there, Father, from people who maybe you mightn't have thought maybe had that faith, but in the moment of truth,
Sure.
they were there with you.
There are very few atheists. There are very few atheists. In the hospital, there are very few atheists. Outside of the hospital, an awful lot of cocky people who,
Bravado, whatever.
Absolutely, and there's loads of that in Ireland right at the minute. But you just wonder, do these people live in the real world, or are they just trying to invent something for themselves? I find it kind of pathetic and adolescent, really. But I met very few atheists. Precious few. I remember, we're coming up to Good Friday now. I remember going around the hospital with a little cross on Good Friday and just stand at the door and say, would you like to kiss the cross? And I don't think, I can't remember having got a refusal. But there were some people who took the cross. Wow. And the way they kissed the figure was a gospel in itself.
But they were looking at that figure on the cross. They were looking at it as faith rather than people concerned how people were viewing them from outside. A wonderful 5 years of experience, both for yourself and no doubt for the people who you were ministering to there. And of course, I'm sure you met some wonderful people performing their vocation as nurses and doctors and medical people and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Priests don't get left in a place for too long, so you were moved again, I'd say.
That's right, I was moved again, and this time I had been talking with Bishop Donald Murray about the possibility of doing extra studies in wherever, and so he sent me off to Rome for 3 years. What an experience that was. Fantastic. Off I went to stay in the Irish College and to study in the Redemptorist College over there, doing a doctorate, and sure, that was, what can you say, that was just marvellous. There's been an Irish college in Rome for almost 400 years now. It was there, excuse me, of course, it was founded there during penal times in Ireland when the Catholic Church could not have their own priests and seminaries. So the Irish went to the continent to study, and there were many colleges. The Irish College in Paris, Salamanca, Prague, Louvain, and Rome, and others.
And was there any specific reason why you went to Rome or went for further study? Was a reason at the end of it that you wanted to I don't know. Why would you have taken the doctorate?
Yeah, good question. Well, I suppose it's a kind of a natural development. If you have your basic degree and then an STL, and then you'd like to finish it off.
Okay.
Wanted to study more too. It's just the way it happened, really. But Bishop Donald was just fantastic.
Wonderful.
Fair play to him, and of course he's a man himself who values study. And I ended up there. It was. I have to be honest here now. It was. I had to egg him on a little bit as well. Say, any chance I could kind of do it? And he said, "Oh, okay." So, but look, wasn't it great?
But no doubt the Lord again was right in that story.
Well, you see, this is it.
Behind. Okay, after 3 years, you returned again to Ireland?
Came back again, and Bishop Donald sent me off to be chaplain in the Limerick Institute of Technology.
That's another new
one, absolutely. 7 years there. Great experience with all the young people and all the staff. And that was great, absolutely. It was very blessed.
How were you accepted there? The view is these days that young people, priests, Catholics and so on and so forth in a college.
Yeah.
How was your experience?
Well, I think they take you for what you are yourself.
Okay.
The collar or the clerical garb, I don't think they really quite know what it stands for, but it was accepting you personally and how they would find you, what kind of a person you were. You've got to earn it, But that's good. That's good.
You mentioned early on that when you were in the hospital and you spoke to people one-to-one, that you found very few atheists.
Sure.
On the same level, the same sort of thinking, when you were in college, did you find many people, when it comes down to it, one-to-one, said no?
Oh, I would be absolutely convinced that, you see, there is a groupthink.
Yeah.
Now, when people are in a group, you know, they don't want to stand out, number one, and they're inclined to imbibe what others tell them. There is also, of course, the kind of the youthful rebellion.
Yeah,
you know?
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So we've been in secondary. Now we're free. You know, we can do whatever we like, and of course, so many of them do, and they all find the same thing, that, as we all do, you know, that the human person is made for God. Now, they don't realize this, but they run out there like the prodigal son, as I did too, in some ways indeed. You know, and you look for fulfillment in all the buzz, the things that give you a buzz. You know, now when I was in college, life was a lot simpler. Money was, we had none, you know. I mean, drinking, we just didn't have the money to do it. Cars, we didn't have any. Drugs, they were unknown. And the whole, you know, sexual morality was much more respected.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, but now things are different, and there are a lot of people being hurt. There's a lot of young people, I think, who are unhappy, and they're searching. I mean, just a few weeks ago, there was a survey done in a college, a big university in Ireland, where, now, was it half or a third of the student population admitted that they binge drink on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You know, you say that's not a sign of happiness.
No.
That's not a sign of happiness. So the Lord is still there, and people are searching here, there, and everywhere. But He's still waiting for us to come back, and that is the great hope, of course, for us all, that God is still interested, just as He was in us, still loves us, still is searching for us, absolutely, and it doesn't matter how far we run away from Him, He will still be there waiting for us to turn around and come back. Ireland at the moment is in many ways in a bad way, but in other ways an awful lot of good things happening. One of my great memories, just 4 years ago, I was in Madrid for the World Youth Day in August of that year. I brought over a group of 20, including some students from LIT, and there were 2 million young people in Madrid together for the World Youth Day around an old man called Pope Benedict.
Yeah.
Now, you gotta stand back and you gotta be honest, and you gotta look at that. Just wait a second now here. 2 million young people. Now, I saw the crowds. These were not old fogies, do you know? These were young, youthful, lively, vibrant. They were in their late teens, 20s, maybe a few in their 30s. And they were just everywhere. The police, I mean, if you had a rock concert with 20,000 people, there'd be riot gear.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, the police, and I speak Spanish, and I was talking to the police, they were leaning up against the cars, smiling and just waving people. That's the way to...
Yeah.
It was great fun. There was no need of riot police. There were 2 million there. The only sad faces and were a small group of Spaniards who have a detestation of things churchy, who were quite nasty, some of them. But the exuberance and the joy of the crowd was just wonderful. We had a marvellous experience, and I keep those things in my heart and I think about them, and it's, that same Lord which animated and gave joy to all those people, he's going to continue to work in Ireland. The Spirit is still there, and it's as strong as ever. The arm of God has not shortened. Man is still man, still in need of God, no matter how sophisticated we think we are.
Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely not. We're just human nature, still the same, and God is still the same too.
And so it came time for you to leave your work in LIT.
That's right.
And then you got another position.
Got another position to go out and be parish priest in Rathkeale, County Limerick. Praise the Lord.
And that's the first time you were ever appointed to a parish.
I was 1 year as a curate
St. Lelius.
in St. Lelius in Munchin's under Canon Michael Manning. God bless him, a lovely man.
But you're into Rathkeale anyway.
Into Rathkeale, and there you go, 3.5 years there. Wonderful people of West Limerick. And it was a great experience. And people very, very nice. Very, very nice. And learnt a lot there, of course. You've all the admin and all that. All the problems that end up on your desk.
Let's say that.
But sure, look, thank God, that's part of life.
That's part of it. Just a few things that I normally ask priests when I chat to them, because people pose them from time to time. Maybe it's the RTE type of thinking. And people say, well, is a priest, do they have a lonely life? Are you lonely?
Definitely not. I mean, you see, it comes down to a priest's prayer life, spiritual life, relationship with the Lord. This is my vocation. Thanks be to God. For many people, for most people, their vocation is marriage. And from what I know of marriage, people can be very lonely in marriages too. There is, how many marriages are breaking up now? And that must be a tremendous wrench in a person's life. To find that the person you love has gone cold towards you. So, absolutely. No, I mean, sure, there are times I might get fed up.
We all have that. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's part of life. And you just cannot sit around moping and self-pity. If there's one thing I learned in the hospital, it was don't feel sorry for yourself. And whenever I felt like that, in fact, a bit of self-pity inside in the hospital, it was a very simple remedy: go down and visit the sick.
Yeah, there you are.
And they'd sort you out in 5 minutes, and you realise.
How does Father Phonsie relax himself?
Oh, sure. I like watching DVDs, not film. Do a bit of reading. I like reading a lot. Play a bit of golf, do a bit of painting, sing in the kitchen when nobody's listening.
You don't have time to get bored anyway with all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Tell me, Father, memories. Have you got any, say, an uplifting memory that might stand out for you, or a sad memory that might stand out for you?
Uplifting memories. There's certainly World Youth Day. There's loads of them. One of the best moments of being a priest is in the confessional, in the confession box. There's a real meeting there between the person who is sorry for his or her sins and who comes to Jesus through the priest. Because that's the way Jesus wants it done. I really do believe that. He said to his apostles, those whose sins you forgive, they are forgiven. Those whose sins you retain, they are retained. Now, to hear the confession of somebody who has been carrying a burden for years, carrying this boulder, this big stone on their heart. And then they kneel down or they sit down and they unburden themselves to the Lord Jesus, who says to them, I absolve you from your sins, you are forgiven. and they walk out of that confessional. That is one of the most joyous times of being a priest.
Lovely.
To see somebody just, my God, and it's so easy, you know, and it costs nothing, but it does take courage, and it does take humility. And of course, you see, us moderns, we're not good at doing humility. We're very proud. We don't want to admit that we need God, but by golly, we do. And it pains me when people, you know, they're flying around and they're going to all sorts of new age rubbish, God forgive me, and they're paying for it. And they think that a head massage is going to get rid of their guilt or whatever. And guilt, by the way, is a human thing, irrespective of any faith, you know. It's only a psychopath doesn't feel guilty, you know. So guilt is a spiritual pain, if you like. It's our mind, our conscience telling us there's something wrong there. You know, where does the healing come from? Jesus.
We're coming to the end, Father, but there's a few more questions I'd like to ask you. What do you think people expect of a priest?
Okay. I think deep down they expect a priest to be a man of prayer, to be truthful, to be consistent, you know, to act the way you should, according to the gospel, which can be very difficult, but that's the calling. But that's the calling for every Christian, of course.
Of course, yeah.
You know, not only a priest. It's the calling for everyone to live according to the gospel.
Father, I've asked you a number of questions here about the priesthood and so on and so forth, and moving on. And as you shared with me, you know, that the way the Lord is still right in there in the background.
Sure.
And the Lord hadn't finished with moving you yet, because something else came up in more recent times. You have been appointed as a bishop. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
That is true. On the 25th of this month, I got a phone call from the papal nuncio who wanted to see me. The following day, I called up to Dublin, and he told me straight off that I had been appointed Bishop of Waterford and Lismore. I would love to have had a camera on my face at that time. I wonder what shade of white did I go. And so ever since then, life has been a bit of a whirlwind, to say the least.
To say the least.
Trying to get my head around that. And but the goodwill has been just tremendous, and Bishop Brendan has been great, and all the other bishops indeed, and my priest friends and people all over the parish in Rathkeale and beyond, my friends, family, and of course the people of Waterford and Lismore got letters in the door by the truckload.
I'd say.
And I will get around to answering them. Texts, phone calls, all the rest of it. All to all goodwill. And I just hope I can, with the help of God, live up to their expectations.
I asked you there just a minute ago, what do you think people expected of a priest? What do you think people expect of a bishop?
I suppose a lot more. You know, I mean, you're more public position, and some of the demands, of course, will be impossible to fulfill, obviously. You know, a bishop is just a human being, really, at the end of the day. And there are only 24 hours in a day, and he can only do so much. But, you know, there's a line in the gospel, Jesus calls the fishermen, and they left their nets and followed him. You know, they just left the work undone. And that's going to be the way for all of us. I mean, the Lord Jesus, when he left the earth, well, what had he actually accomplished? I mean, it looked as if everything was, you know, he hadn't built anything. He had very few converts. He had a whole pile of people ran away. Yeah. So perfection we ain't going to have on this side of eternity. But we got to work. We got to work as if everything depended on us, as St. Augustine says. But pray as if everything depended on God.
When do you actually get ordained, Bishop?
On the 12th of April.
Or Divine Mercy Sunday?
Divine Mercy Sunday. At 3 o'clock. Good time to be ordained.
A good time to be ordained. Father Phonsie, this is the last question I want to ask you. It isn't really a question. It's maybe a message that you might want to give to whoever might be listening to this program, whether in this country or abroad. You've touched it in a few times. This idea of hope and this idea of faith.
Sure.
People who sometimes might be hanging on by their fingernails to their faith.
Sure.
What would you like to say to them?
Pray. That's what I would say. Talk to Jesus. Pray. It always starts with prayer. Go to the tabernacle. Don't do it on your own. Don't try and go it alone, I mean. We're part of the church. You know, the coal that falls out of the fire, where it is warmed by all the other coals, if a coal falls out, it goes cold on its own.
Yeah.
But in the fire, it remains hot. So don't try and think that you can solve all these problems and you can figure it all out on your own. When Jesus taught the apostles to pray, he taught them the Our Father, not the My Father.
Mm.
We're in it together in the church, which he founded. So I would say, be part of the community. Go to the sacraments, pray, and remember that God is with you, and he's with the others. We're all imperfect. You may look around your community at Mass, and you might, you might say, well, they're not much. Well, then again, you know, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to be critical of others. We have to judge ourselves by the same standards. How am I an apostle for Christ? That's the great privilege, that's the great challenge, to be an ambassador for Christ.
Father Phonsie, what a lovely way to finish off the interview, to be an ambassador for Christ. So may I, on behalf of all who listen to Sacred Space each Sunday morning, wish you all the best and assure you of our prayers as you continue your work for the Lord. He's continuing to write there in your life. God bless you and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, and God bless you and all your work and all your listeners.
Thank you, Father. God bless you. So my thanks to Bishop Phonsie Cullinan, the then Father Phonsie Cullinan, who joined me for a wonderful interview there a few months ago. We thank Father for the work he's doing for the Lord, for the work he's done here in County Limerick, and for the work he's doing now as Bishop in Waterford and Lismore. So with that, we'll go out with a bit of music, and I think there was really no other choice this morning but to play a piece from Mark Forrest from his album You Are Mine, and this one is entitled You Are Mine. So we'll pray this and remember Father Bishop Phonsie Cullinan as we leave the programme for this week. Until next week, God bless you all now. Bye.
A voice came from the cloud. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. I will come to you in the silence. I will lift you from all your fear. You will hear my voice. I claim you as my choice. Be still and know I am here. And do not be afraid, for I am with you. I have called you each by name. Come and follow me, and I will bring you home. eyes for those who long to see. In the shadows of the night, I will be your light. Come and rest in me. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. It is I who have called you each by name. Come and follow me, and I will bring you home. I love you, and you are mine. I am the strength for all the despairing, healing for the ones who dwell in shame. All the blind will see, the lame will all run free, and all will know my name. I am the word that leads all to freedom. Yes, I am the peace the world just cannot give. I will call your name, embracing all your pain. Stand up now and walk and believe. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. It is I who've called you each by name. Come and follow me, and I will bring you home. I love you, and you are mine. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. It is I who've called you each by name. Come and follow me, and I will bring you home. I love you, and you are mine.
Sacred Space on West Limerick 102.